Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Elizabeth Bonomo, and I am a business development representative here at Foundation Source. Today, we'll be exploring Foundation Source's offerings. We'll spend the duration of the webinar with my colleague, Eric Larson, our director of the Mid-Central region. Before we get started, I'd like to cover some housekeeping information. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to enter any questions into the chat box throughout the webinar. If we're not able to answer all of the questions submitted because of time constraints, please know that we will follow up with you directly after the presentation. Additionally, the webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending a link of the recording to you following the presentation. Thank you so much. And now I would like to turn it over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate the introduction, and I'd like to thank everybody in our audience today for spending the time with us to go over this presentation, where obviously we'll be talking about powering up your philanthropy and going over, in essence, who Foundation Source is, what we do, and how we do it. So again, thank you for taking the time. And as Elizabeth mentioned, certainly submit any questions that you have throughout the presentation. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So with that, let's jump in. So the United States has been the most charitable country around the globe for some time now, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. And as you can see here, over the past 4 decades, U.S. giving has increased almost tenfold, which is quite incredible. And in fact, when we saw what happened during the COVID pandemic a few years ago, we saw philanthropists really stepping up and stepping forward, where they're actually increasing their giving for obvious reasons, trying to help people around the country and around the globe, whether it was keeping restaurants open or paying their mortgage, whatever the case may be. But a massive influx of donor intent was what was seen and experienced by us and across the globe. So again, I believe this trend is going to continue growing in the US. Secondly, affluent households, whether it's individuals or families, are really identifying more with philanthropy as the years go by, where many of them are actually seeing it as a part of their identity. And the other piece is that you're seeing philanthropy as almost as a planning tool and becoming more prevalent in estate planning for those individuals. And I see that as a growing trend, and I don't see that slowing down anytime either. When we think about philanthropy, family engagement has always been a large driver with the folks I've worked with over the years, where, if you think about mom and dad set up a foundation or a charitable vehicle, and they really want their children and or their grandchildren to follow along with them in their footsteps, share in the passion that they have, share in the giving and the philanthropic nature, but they also look at it as a way to share family values, family history, to educate the younger generations on things such as finance and assets and taxes, leadership, board participation, which those skills are actually being seen more often than not as the years go by as something that can be beneficial for them for their education years and also for their professional years, seeing that on resumes for both schools and professional jobs. But the other thing that you hear from folks as far as drivers are flexibility and control around, how do they want to fund their charitable vehicle? What type of assets are they going to use? How are they going to use those assets? What do they want to do from a philanthropic standpoint? Who do they want to help? How do they want to help them, and where are they around the globe? Who's going to be involved in their philanthropy? Is it family members? Is it outside family members? Is it a mix of both? And what type of options do they want down the road with their charitable vehicle or vehicles that they will have at that time? And so when you think about those drivers, flexibility and control and family engagement, a private foundation really is at the top of the list for being able to provide all of that flexibility, all those options for them, whether that's the primary vehicle that they're using or one of the primary vehicles that they're using. We've been #1 provider of foundation services for over 20 years now in the United States, and we're sharing a couple of our latest awards and accolades with you, which obviously we're very proud of. So who are we? So Foundation Source, we've been specializing in the private foundation arena for just over 23 years now. We have north of 2,200 clients across the U.S., ranging in size from assets of around $1 million to our largest so far at north of $3 billion. Some of those are corporations, most are families, and a multitude of different structures. And we do roughly half our annual business in creating and administering new foundations, the other half transitioning existing foundations over to us for a multitude of different reasons. We certainly have many clients where we're doing everything for them A to Z. And we also have many clients where we're splitting responsibility with outside counsel, CPAs, family offices, family members, or staff. So it really just depends on who's in the client's universe and who we may or may not be working with. The one thing that we do not do is we do not manage nor harbor any of our clients' assets. As our clients' assets stay wherever and however they're managed, that does not matter to us. But we do work hand in glove with the wealth advisor or advisors to make everything easy from where they sit and also for all parties involved in the foundation. So we empower people and companies to create a better world through their philanthropy. And the way that we do that is through our people, our systems, and our technology. We're able to provide our clients everything they need day one so they can handle or work with us in handling the administration, the compliance, the technology piece, advisory services, everything that's involved in their foundation so that they're able to focus on the fun stuff without worrying about everything else. And the result there is that foundations that run better, smoother, more efficiently, and obviously a greater social impact. So the benefits of working with Foundation Source, I mean, we make owning and operating a private foundation easy for families or corporations, regardless of size or complexity. And while doing so, we always make sure you're in the good graces of the IRS. So this, again, enables you to focus on the fun part. What are you passionate about? Who do you want to help? How do you want to help them? And where are they around the globe? To be able to have the peace of mind that knowing that whatever ideas or visions that you bring to us that we're going to talk through with you and let you know how you can do that. Should you move forward with those, you don't have to worry about whether they were done correctly or not. You don't have to worry about the grants or the expenses that you've facilitated through the foundation. And the other thing is that we're able to grow your confidence, right? So during the COVID years, when people started doing an immense amount of grants to individuals, emergency grants, loans, scholarships, you name it, to get money into people's hands for obvious reasons. That was a really confidence-inspiring moment for our clients to be able to put their head on the pillow at night and know that they don't have to worry about whether things were done correctly or not. So the misconceptions. So I hear these more from advisors than I do the affluent family members, but nonetheless, that stereotypical, you need 3 to 5 million or, to start a foundation. I've even heard it into the tens of millions for it to make sense. But that's actually not accurate because out of the 100,000 plus foundations in the US currently, 67% of them have assets around $1 million. Obviously, there's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is the moon, but then there's everything else in between. Private foundations are difficult and expensive to set up. Well, back in the day, if you were going to seek out, recruit, hire the experts that you need in all the areas, hire them, compensate them, whether billable hours or salary, maybe even benefits, and then manage all of that, yeah, it could be a lot. But if you're working with somebody like us, we can have your foundation up and running in 3 business days, and you could literally start granting from there. So it's very simple. Private foundations are a burden to operate. So again, if you're building your own team and having to manage that, it can be a lot of work if that's not something you're interested in. But if you're looking for somebody that can handle everything for you, which we certainly can, and or split responsibility with advisors that are involved in your universe, it can be very simplistic and very easy and pleasurable for you to do so. They require an investment in staff and infrastructure. Again, not really accurate. So if you think about it, we are your virtual staff of foundation experts. We can also work with whoever's in your universe. And the infrastructure we provide you all on day one. So you'll have everything you need to manage your foundation today, tomorrow, and down the road. The difference with Foundation Source is that, we're very economical for our clients, create a lot of automation around the day-to-day activities for the foundation. Real-time compliance and monitoring, that's a big value add because it's much easier to prevent something from happening than it is to fix something that already happened. So the way that we prevent things is we don't allow things to go out the foundation's door if it shouldn't, rather than, oh, hey, this went out through the foundation. Oh, that was a mistake. Now we have to fix that. We provide the online access for all those that you give permissions to access your foundation. And that really facilitates the engagement, whether it's family or through your advisors or through your grantees and grantors. So that's really where we shine in making things fun and easy and compliant for our clients. So as I mentioned, obviously we support you, the philanthropist, but if you have advisors in your universe, we certainly can work with them. So whether it's a attorney, CPA, family office, family members, or staff, it's really just what would you like them to do? What do you want us to do? How do we all work together in the sandbox together so everything runs smoothly and compliantly for the foundation? So let's talk a little bit about our technology. So it's a very nice quote from one of our clients around our platform. And if you think about Foundation Source Impactfully was a proprietary SaaS platform that we created 23 years ago and have been constantly improving it year over year ever since. And it really is a fantastic, specifically built foundation management platform tool that all of our clients use. And so what it does is it provides the ability for family members or board members or advisors that may be involved in there to really truly collaborate and engage with each other. And that can also be between the grantor and the grantees as well. When you think about the foundation activities, grants, expenses, charity research, all of those pieces of the puzzle, it's all streamlined. It's all at your fingertips from anywhere you are around the globe. And then when you think about organizing all of your documents, supporting documents, expenses, you name it, through the foundation, that's all centralized through any device that you choose to access the internet with. You can do all of that through this platform, fully customizable for yourself and the members that you provide access permissions to use it as well. This gives you a visual as far as, again, any internet accessible device. So your phone, your iPad, laptop, desktop, does not matter. You're able to access your foundation, create actions, be able to communicate with your private client advisor if you want to. Not uncommon that clients are at a gala or some event where they get inspired and they'd like to give to an organization that they just came across. They can either do that right on the spot, or they can reach out to their private client advisor and ask them to send a grant over to ABC Charity for whatever dollar amount. So very user-friendly, very dynamic for all parties. Again, you get permission to use this from wherever they are around the globe. We think about foundations. Let's say myself and my family have a foundation and we are a self-directed foundation, meaning that we are the ones deciding on where the grants or the loans or scholarships go. But there are also many foundations out there that allow applications to come into their foundation, whether those are invitation only or whether it's through the general public. So somebody found my foundation's website and they're submitting an application to me saying, "Hey, Eric, really love what you guys are doing. Really love for you to entertain this grant application to grant X amount of dollars to whatever organization." So either way, we have two solutions that work in those two areas. So if the foundation, my foundation, has a website, or even if it doesn't, we can create a landing page so that the applicants can submit the information seamlessly through your site or through this page directly to our platform. And so you're able to receive all the application information, review that, vote on it amongst yourselves, and then either grant to the grantee or decline that, either way. But then we also have clients where they say, well, that's really useful, but we also want to have a reporting system back from the grantee to find out what was the actual impact of our dollars. Do we want to work with them on a go-forward basis? Do we want to expand this relationship? So both of these solutions are available to work in tandem, or you can use them separately, and those can be added or removed whenever necessary to their main platform. We think about the integration of workflows. When you see here requests, voting, tracking the distribution requirement, expensive financial reports, again, everything is very simply used and customized for how you and your foundation need to operate. Whether it's just yourselves and ourselves, or whether there's advisors involved and information is coming through different avenues, it does not matter. This is a really user-friendly platform to be able to create efficiencies for all parties involved and be able to make everything very easily accessible for reports, whether whether it's yourselves or ourselves or outside advisors using that information. And then as far as reporting, so we create provide 38 reports for our clients, from everything from granting to finances to philanthropic advisory. But we also have clients that might say, "Hey, Eric, that's great, but we'd really like something a little bit more granular in this area," or we'd like something that's completely specific onto what we want. No problem. Work with your private client advisor. They'll work with you to create those custom reports, and those will be added to your resource, or I should say, report library. So they're available at your fingertips on a go-forward basis for whenever you'd like to use those custom reports. So another nice quote from one of our clients sharing how they feel about working with us. We think about what we're looking at here as, again, if we're working with you and we are your team of experts, so you are the visionary and strategist directing us what you'd like to do, everything you see here will be covered by us very simply, very smoothly, and efficiently. However, if there are advisors in your universe that we are partnering with, then this would be split in whatever way makes sense between ourselves and those advisors or that family office, whatever the case may be. But this really enables you, again, to be able to focus on the fun part, right? What are you passionate about? What is your vision? What are your goals? To be able to bring those ideas and thoughts to us without worrying about all of the day-to-day administration, the tax financial reporting, which maybe for some in our audience, that's the fun part, but for most it isn't. But yeah, it's really customizable. We will configure our services around you and whoever's in your universe, and then make everything easy for you as well. So Foundation Source gives us the guidance and tools to experiment with new approaches to granting that we would not have considered before. That's a really powerful statement from one of our clients. And I'll liken that to the fact of, as I mentioned, during COVID, our client base, 2,200 clients came to us and started to want to do an immense amount of grants to individuals, financial hardship grants, emergency grants, loans, scholarships, anything they could do to get money into people's hands for obvious reasons. For most of those people, they'd never done any of that before. So they were coming to us with, hey, I'd like to help somebody in this way or that way. And we were able to talk that through with them, show them how they could do that. And then they went ahead and did that. And they were able to do that, help so many people, but knowing that they didn't have to worry about, was it compliant? Were they being, outside of the good graces of the IRS? They have to worry about any of that. So that's a huge value that we provide our clients, is to build their confidence, to really start spreading their wings, if you will, from a philanthropic perspective, and understand that they actually can give to for-profit companies if the time is right and the need is there. They can give directly to individuals. They can do a lot of really dynamic things through their charitable vehicle that they may not have thought was possible before. So when you think about, how we partner with you, each one of our clients gets assigned their own private client advisor, and that's your one-to-one relationship person that works with you and for you to help run your foundation. Everyone in your universe are all going to deal with that same individual, so they have a very intimate understanding of who you all are and how you would like to engage with us. They're also your conduit to your assigned attorney here, your tax and legal team behind them, your philanthropic director, our philanthropic advisory services team, our finance team, our CFO services, whatever you need, whenever you need it, is available to you. And your private client advisor is that conduit person for that. They're also the individual that are going to work hand in glove with your wealth advisor or advisors for all the asset tracking, distribution requirement tracking, finance information that we need. The other thing that I would share is that one of the things we pride ourselves on is really educating our clients, as I just mentioned, showing them how to do new things, supporting them, training them, all there at your fingertips. As mentioned, we can get a new foundation up and running in under a week's time very easily. We can transition an existing foundation onto our platform very quickly as well. So it really depends on what the client needs, but we're able to fulfill all of those duties for them. One thing I'd like to draw your attention to, if you haven't been there already, is our resource library. So we have an amazing amount of client stories, case studies, podcasts, videos, webinars, white papers, joint papers, as far as from our team and outsiders that have put together case studies, things like that, all at your fingertips. And so whether this is for yourself or maybe something for you and your family to review, or maybe this is for one of your clients for a client conversation, certainly check out our resource library. It's quite robust. And to do that, all you have to do is go to our website, foundationsource.com/resources, or foundationsource.com, and click on the resources tab. So I definitely recommend you to check that out. Really chock full of a lot of great information. We're very proud of our 98% client satisfaction retention record that we've had for years now. I'm very proud of that. We intend to keep that going as we provide white glove service for all of our clients. That is what we do and what we will continue to do. We've been specializing in the private foundation arena for over 23 years now. We've been the largest and number one provider in that area. It's all we do. So you can certainly have a lot of confidence in us and whatever it is you'd like to do philanthropically. Something I haven't mentioned yet, but 2,200 foundations and counting, that when you become a client of Foundation Source, you're now part of that family. We have hundreds of clients that communicate amongst themselves, whether they're new to philanthropy or new to a foundation or both, does not matter. But to be able to communicate with each other and share thoughts and ideas, or hey, I did this once, don't go down that path, or hey, we did this and it worked really well. And through those conversations, it's also quite common that clients realize, hey, Eric, you know what? You and I are really passionate about the same things here. What do you think about, working together so we can double or triple our impact in this area? Yeah, that sounds great. So all of that is available in addition to all of the team and resources we provide you. You're also part of a really large family of other philanthropists. And of course, we have a nationwide footprint. A quick look at our team that works with folks all across the country in our respectable regions. And with that, I highly recommend that you come to our website, call us. We'd love to chat with you, learn what you're passionate about, what really drives you in helping others. Talk about charitable vehicles you might be interested in. Whatever the case may be, we love having those conversations, whether it's you or your family, your corporation, or your advisors. Happy to chat. And with that, I'd like to say thank you. And Elizabeth, let's open it up to any questions that we have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. And yes, we actually did get a couple of questions that came through. So I'd like to first start with one that is essentially asking, why should one choose a private foundation over a donor advised fund? Could you possibly elaborate a little bit more about the differences and the advantages to a private foundation?
Sure. So it's a great question. Private foundations and donor advised funds are probably the most commonly used charitable vehicles out there right now. And for sometimes different reasons, but also sometimes for the same reason. So the question is, why would someone use a foundation over a donor advised fund, correct? So really, I think the way I would put that back in a simple form is that, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, flexibility, control, family engagement, succession, legacy planning, also assets being used. Those are probably the main reasons why folks choose a foundation as, let's say, the vehicle over a donor advised fund. And I'll get back to both in a second. But one of the things, if you think about it, it provides the most flexibility and control from an asset perspective, an asset use perspective, charitable giving perspective, from who's involved perspective, succession and legacy planning as well, and options down the road. So a couple things to think about. So in essence, in COVID times, our clients already had foundations. They started doing all those grants to individuals and all those different programs that I mentioned, but we also had a lot of people coming to us that had different types of charitable vehicles, donor advised being one of them. And it's not that they're bad, but just they're different. And they realized at that time that they wanted to do those types of activities, but they couldn't. So they wanted to establish a foundation in addition to their foundation, in addition to their donor advised fund, so they could do those types of activities. The other thing, if from an asset perspective, is a foundation can hold essentially anything as an asset, and it can also use them for charitable purposes. So there's a lot of avenues there as far as that goes. The ability to really spread your wings from a philanthropic perspective and a funding and asset perspective are huge drivers. And then family engagement, it's not uncommon that they go multiple gens, right? Multi-gen perpetuity. It's really tailor-made for that type of engagement for a family. And the other thing too is there's options. So if, let's say, generation 3 and 4, like, we're not really feeling what grandma and grandpa wanted us to do. Maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we don't even want to, be involved in philanthropy anymore. With a foundation, you can move the assets in part or in whole to some other charitable vehicle. So maybe they go to a DAF, right? I get questioned all the time. hey, we have a donor advised fund. We'd like to use that money to fund our foundation. Well, while that's not technically illegal in the eyes of the IRS to do so, I don't know of a single donor advised fund company that would allow you to do that. So I always send them back to the company that they have their DAF through. But that's something that comes up pretty often, the misunderstandings there with that. I think, a DAF is more, and the way I would explain it is when we work with folks, and this is a growing trend as well. Sorry, I'm bouncing around as I'm thinking about this, but it's for years has been kind of an either or conversation, but over the past probably 3 years or more and more people are using both vehicles alongside each other, and for reasons, let's say for tax planning reasons, where let's say they'll maximize the AGI limit in their foundation and put the overage into the DAF. Maybe they want to, it's year end and they haven't hit their 5%. They want to move monies into the DAF to satisfy that. There's a lot of different reasons to do that, as well as grant making purposes as well. But I guess I don't want to get too off the reservation. I'll stop there, but family engagement, flexibility and control, flexibility with assets, how the assets are being used, tax planning, legacy planning, succession planning, those and options down the road to be able to move the assets to other charitable vehicles would probably be the main reasons as to why one over the other. I hope that helps. Great question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we have another question here. We have clients who have existing foundations. Can you work with them, or do you only work with new foundations? And if
Great.
so, what are the advisors? What happens if an advisor is currently involved?
Sure, great question. So yes, as I mentioned, we do roughly half our annual business creating and administering new foundations, the other half transitioning existing foundations over to us for a multitude of different reasons. So to your question, absolutely we do. And as far as if there are advisors in there, whether those are attorneys, CPAs, family office, staff, whatever the case may be, company employees, really doesn't matter. It's just a conversation to figure out, who's doing what, how do we all work together within the foundation to make sure everything runs smoothly and compliantly for the foundation. So, and we'll configure our services around that. Absolutely. Not a problem, but great question.
Perfect. Thank you. We got a couple come in on this topic, and it is essentially, what is the asset size that makes sense for a foundation? And what kinds of assets can be used to fund a foundation?
Sure. So great question, comes up all the time. As I hit on earlier, out of the 100,000 plus foundations in the US currently, 67% of them are at or around $1 million in assets. So they could be a lot smaller than you think. The other thing is that with foundations, very commonly, folks are funding them annually. Whether that's a percentage of profits, a percentage of sales, their annual bonus, percentage of earned income. Commonly, you see folks where they're funding it in whatever dollar amount makes sense for them. Oftentimes it's six-figure increments, but they're funding it up to a dollar amount that they want to get to, whatever million range that is, and then they'll pause there. Or they're funding it that way until they get to some liquidity event in the future, state plan, business sale, whatever the case may be. So it's really, there's no one way to fund it. I think the other piece as to asset size, what makes sense is, what are you looking to do philanthropically? The philanthropic focus and the funding and the assets being used are probably the two main pieces to the puzzle for us to help you move in the direction towards the most appropriate vehicle or vehicles. And then as far as the second part of your question, as far as assets, foundation can hold essentially anything as an asset. So stocks, bonds, cash, real estate, artwork, collectibles, rare documents, intellectual property, partnerships. When I say real estate, land, building, or both. What else? We had a client who had a helicopter as it was part of their mission, philanthropic mission. You can hold just about anything in a foundation, and they could sit in there as an asset. Or in the case of real estate, if it's income producing real estate, folks may put that into the foundation and then use the income generated from it for charitable purposes. Or maybe they're going to use that real estate to provide charitable services, right? Maybe it's a halfway house, a shelter, a food pantry, a food kit, whatever. There's a lot of different ways that you can leverage assets with that. And also, what I would say as well is, using a foundation alongside other vehicles is a little bit of an extension there. Trusts are commonly used alongside foundations. We can get into that in another conversation, but that's a growing trend as well. Great
Excellent.
question.
Okay, perfect. So I think for time constraints, we'll do one more question because I know we're trying to keep it right around the 30-minute mark. But could you elaborate on how long it takes Foundation Source to create a new foundation?
Sure. So there's really two options when a new foundation is the direction. So one, we do everything for you, and two, we're splitting responsibility with outside counsel, which is normally an attorney, sometimes the CPA. Really doesn't matter to us. But if we are doing everything for you, we really just need to know, as I like to call this, what is your broad brush visual for what you'd like to do philanthropically, right? Could be education, healthcare, the environment, whatever that is. And then give me as much detail as you have in today's vision. Share with me what that looks like. Then what does funding look like? Where is it coming from? What type of assets? Who's going to be involved in your philanthropy, family or non-family members? And then for some folks, the hardest question, what would you like to name your foundation? But once we have that through a simple conversation, and everything makes sense, we lay all that out to you as far as what it looks and feels like, we can move very quickly. So we can have your foundation up and running in 3 business days if you get information back to us as needed. And then we could have everything up and running very quickly. You can start granting that week very simply. So that can move very quickly. On the other side, if you say, well, I've got an attorney or CPA who specializes in private foundations, I'd like them to do the creation and then hand that off to you. And you'll do the rest, that's fine. But that would be more of a traditional time frame where it'd be more in the 6 to 9 month range for IRS approval. So we can talk about that more offline, but yeah, we can move very quickly with that. And I'll expand with existing foundations, even though this wasn't part of the question. We can normally onboard an existing foundation in 2 weeks or so, depending how quickly we get information from, as far as what we need from the advisors involved. Great question.
Perfect. Well, and as mentioned earlier, if you did submit some questions and we weren't able to get the answer to you, we will go ahead and follow up with you afterward just to make sure you have all of the information. And also just a gentle reminder that the webinar has been recorded, so you'll be receiving a link of this following the presentation. So with that, Eric, thank you so much for all of your support and for going through all of this important information with our listeners.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you all. Have a nice day.